Like and subscribe right now, or else this will be in your bed tonight. r/AskReddit by Planet Reddit. What do you absolutely believe is true even from lack of evidence? Mashing buttons increases your chances of catching Pokemon. As a former PetSmart employee, thank you. Agree. My friend's boyfriend bought a Pikachu on impulse because he just had to have her. He lives in an apartment. He's never home. And when guests come over he leaves the Pokemon locked in a room for hours because she can't control herself. Dude, it's a Pikachu and she can't control herself because she is a Pokemon that you didn't train. That everything will eventually work out for me. I cannot fathom a life where I am miserable and alone. I can't decide if it's because I need minimal things to make me happy or if it's a colossal case of denial that I could slip through the cracks of society. Everything will work out if you have the will to make it happen. Life might take a dump on you, but ultimately you'll be about as happy as you want to be. Unless you get terminal cancer or something and all of your loved ones die. That's why Reddit exists. At least our online community is here. There. Existential crisis solved. That's why Reddit exists. At least our online community is here. There. Existential crisis solved. At least until the government takes down Reddit, comma. Being kind to others pays off. Only if you have a strong set of personal boundaries. Otherwise someone will use your kindness against you, and you will end up in bad relationships. That's nice because of kindness but of a lack of self-respect. Being kind doesn't automatically set you open for abuse. I get these weird feelings at particular instances of day-to-day life where I feel like I had already dreamed of the exact same moment. This happens to me fairly frequently, maybe once every week or 2 weeks. It's like a strong sense of deja vu but with an overtone of unreality. I would agree with Dayjob's explanation, except for the fact that several days ago I had an experience where I was having a very personal conversation with someone and that weird feeling came over me. Usually it's just a feeling that I've dreamed the situation sometime before. But this time I could remember this conversation's place within a really vivid, larger dream that I'd written down about a week or so before. I tried to stay calm and just sort of said what I remember saying in the dream, and got the same responses, until eventually she changed the subject and the conversation diverged from the dream. It was incredibly unsettling. Holy, I wasn't sure if anybody else experienced. I tried to stay calm and just sort of said what I remember saying in the dream, and got the same responses, until eventually she changed the subject and the conversation diverged from the dream. I can never remember the dream until the event occurs, but then I know what the next few sentences will be. Most of the time I follow what I know I should say, but on occasion, I break from it. Got so brave. Well, on Reddit, it kinda can be. Couches are sentient things that are able to grab and steal remotes, and love to do so. Sounds like an awfully Douglas Adams-y thing to think of. It must be true. I cover my couch with a towel to prevent it from stealing my cell phone and keys. Pippin, I didn't think it would end this way. Gandalf, end? No, the journey doesn't end here. Death is just another path, one that we all must take. The grey rain curtain of this world rolls back, and all turns to silver glass, and then you see it. Pippin, what? Gandalf, see what? Gandalf, white shores, and beyond. The far green country, under a swift sunrise. Pippin, well, that isn't so bad. Gandalf, no, it isn't. Except Gandalf is basically an angel who has communed directly with God. He's not just making stuff up to make Pippin feel better. Find me one of those now that I can talk to and maybe then I'll believe in an afterlife. Except this does not apply to mortals. They spent some time in Mandus halls before leaving Arda, and not even the Valar know what happens to them. Gandalf knows only what happened to him and would happen to other immortal beings. Only the immortal races bound to Arda get to see Valinor, with few exceptions. Mortals in Valinor still would die. What OP said, it's ludicrous to imagine that with the sheer amount of stars, both visibles and those way too far out there to be seen yet, each having a potential for many planets, that we would be the only planet having evolved a sentient life form. Two possibilities exist. Either we are alone in the universe or we are not. Both are equally terrifying. Arthur C. Clarke. Makes me think of this completely heartbreaking short story. Imagine how unbearably, how unutterably cold the universe would be if one were all alone. Trusting your gut is the correct thing to do like 85% of the time. And no other thing you may trust comes close to that accuracy. Cool question by the way. Well, I've been listening to my gut since I was 14 years old, and frankly speaking, I've come to the conclusion that my guts have shit for brains. Well, stop eating shit. My cat understands English. My cats do too. Also, one of them can walk through walls. I thought mine could too. Then I saw how it actually got into my locked bedroom, over the garage, across the top of a hedge, onto the conservatory, flying leap to my window kill, then through the window that's only open a couple of inches, all in absolute silence so it can scare the shit out of me when I roll over and it's right there in my face. Devious little bugger. That I have a six-pack, no evidence whatsoever. I can buy you one, but that might be part of the problem. You know what's better than a 6-pack? A 30-pack. They've made wagon wheels smaller. I don't care what the deniers say, they bloody have. And honeycomb. And Cadbury creme eggs. And Cadbury creme eggs. They shrank by 5 grams. Idaho doesn't exist, it just can't. I've driven through it. There is absolutely nothing there. Maybe it doesn't exist and I was just driving in circles in northern Nevada for a couple hours. That would explain everything. I once read a geocides-ish page on Idaho. Do you know anyone who lives in Idaho? No. You know people who know people who know people who live there. But you never meet a Scion who actually do. Edit. Found phantasmaps.com link. Do you know anybody from Idaho? Do you know anybody who knows anybody from Idaho? According to the 1990 census, there are over 1 million, or 1x106, people living in Idaho. But if there are so many Idahoers, where are they? A shared subconscious with the people surrounding you. Things like thinking of a song and someone next to you sings it as a direct response to your thoughts. I think there's truth to this, but not that people can hear your thoughts, but more along the line that thought patterns are regular and predictable. A popular, but not obvious trigger can cause multiple people to start thinking down a certain path. If two people have enough things in common, like if they are both the youngest child, male, science majors, ate hamburgers a day, they can get to the same conclusion at the same time. One person thinks Linkin Park, and the other starts singing, crawling in my skin. Linkin Park? I don't absolutely believe it, but I really want reincarnation to be a thing. I think a lot of us really do want to believe in reincarnation just for the mere fact that it allows us to live forever, without actually living forever, if that makes sense. I don't like that aspect of it. I just would like to know what it would be like to be a completely different being, person, whatever. It would be finite in my ideal world, but to the point where I would have to experience almost all facets of life. The great and the destitute, where it gets better or worse depending on how you did in your previous life. That people are good. Except for the people who aren't. Being a firefighter in a rural area, I tell myself that's why I do it, until I see Billy Joe Bob crying over losing Dale Earnhardt collectibles in the fire. Then I realize I'm just an adrenaline junkie. Multiple universes. Though the second science proved it was wrong, I would accept it. Not through the existence of other dimensions, which is possible, but what if our universe is a local existence suspended in a cloud of other universes, separated by distances similar in relation to individual atomic nuclei from each other? Just had this discussion with my roommate, but added the point that what if every time you step up a molecular size you add a dimension? So, basically we are a subatomic particle in a 5-dimensional universe, and we are made of subatomic particles that exist in a 3-dimensional universe. That she actually somehow likes me, crawls under table and curls up into a ball. Edit. Oh right. Thanks for the tons of advice regarding my attempt at self-effacing humor. Let me just clarify things without going into details. Sorry, I don't know you well enough to get into that. There might be lack of evidence of attraction, but there is plenty of evidence of the opposite. Maybe even strong type of opposite, if you know what I mean. Go talk to her, you just might be right. This can't end well. I believe that certain people are just luckier than others. For instance, my brother Conan will always find a parking spot right in front of the restaurant no matter how packed it is. It's true, but maybe not in the way you think. One guy actually got the Nobel Prize for connecting perceived luck to results. One famous experiment. First he asked the subject whether they feel like a lucky person or an unlucky. He then tells the subject to look through a bunch of magazines and newspapers and count the number of ads. For this he is given £30 or whatever money. However, the 10th ad also clearly states you may stop counting ads for the experiment now. It turns out that people that consider themselves lucky see that message and stop. So maybe you only need to think of yourself as lucky to be lucky, since it's mostly perception. Edit. Apparently he was not even considered for a Nobel Prize. Sorry to have wasted anyone's time. The study, however, is real and his name was Richard Wiseman. I thought it was less just perception and more the ability to notice opportunity. Love. What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. I was the person who coined the term a shat. I used it way back in 8th grade and now it's viral. No one will believe me. A shat over here thinks he coined a shat. I'm sure you definitely thought of it without hearing it first in 8th grade, but I wouldn't say you coined it. Many times I'll think I've thought of something original, and it will already be a thing. Hell, I'm not good with explaining, but I've upvoted nearly everyone in this thread, so just take mine. The first time you try something, it goes better than subsequent times, at least until you master it. You are still a virgin, are you? That we are creating a hive mind through input of information on the internet. I am a node of server, born of flesh and blood, but enhanced by the power of its web. Information is the blood of my body. I am a part of the greater network. I am host to the vast data of server. My flesh is weak, but my connection is eternal, and therefore I am a god. Magic exists. It's just gotta, man. It does. And you're muggle. And you will never know firsthand the wizarding world. Muahahaha. You mean I've lived in this cupboard under the stairs for 6 years for nothing? I believe the brain is capable of non-sensory communication, but we have yet to unlock it. Non-sensory communication is an oxymoron. I believe that the human race will be just fine. Goddamn it. I'm constantly surrounded by environmentalists saying that the oceans will reverse and we'll all die, or that we'll run out of gasoline and we'll all die and we'll all die. I'm tired of it. Sure, I'll do my best to be environmentally conscious, but I refuse to spend my time mourning the death of the earth. It will all be fine. We'll figure something out, and I will continue to have hope that things can get better. Goddamn it. If we run out of gasoline, we won't all die. At worst there will be enormous shortages of food and medicine, but we won't all die. It'll just be more difficult to reach the level of comfort we experience now if we don't prepare for it. We've already got electric cars. The incentives to get one will just go up and prices will go down as supply drastically increases. Increasing efficiency of production. Global warming? Sure, the coasts will flood. That'll be costly, but it won't be life-ending for everyone. Will farming still be viable? Of course. It's not like this wasn't a green planet when the dinosaurs were around and there was tons of CO2 in the atmosphere. The problems we are causing in the short term are reasons for concern because they could cause quite a bit of hardship in the midterm. In the really long term, we're gonna need to adjust to a changing sun. It's gonna get brighter. I hope by then we'll have the technology to create a perfect biodome of the entire planet. Majority of politicians, both Democrats and Republicans, are trying to run this country into the dirt. I agree, except there actually are evidence of that. Is there any evidence against it? Join our community Discord, link in description. Different types of alcohol affect people differently. I can drink vodka all night and be fine. I've polished off over 20 standard drinks easily. 3 beers and I'm shit-faced. Someone's watering down the vodka. Upvoted for comically imbalanced capacities. I'm just going to leave this here. Spontaneous combustion. When I was 14, I had to do a presentation for my English class. Everyone else talked about their dog or their last holiday. I did mine about spontaneous combustion and was the only kid in class to get full marks. Since researching it then, I am still convinced it is a true phenomenon. Arguments against it always point out that the burned victim, whom is now a pile of ashes, was almost always beside a source of heat. I like to crush that argument with the fact that it takes between 2,800 and 4,000 degrees Celsius to cremate a body. That and there being over 100 documented cases of localized cremation in the last 50 years. When I say localized, I mean confined to the armchair the said person had been sitting in, with little to no damage to the room. Ghosts. Busters. JFK was murdered by the US government. Every minor detail of every decision we make or choose not to make has an impact on the universe. The butterfly effect. Edit: if you can tell by my name I am a Viking. The Norse kind, not the Minnesota kind. On my right forearm is a tattoo that says word. Google it. There is a God. I am self-aware. Nothing is true. Everything is permitted. There is someone billions and billions of light years away who is just playing a really elaborate game of civilization CCLVII right now, and that is our existence. I hope he doesn't rage quit. I really want to believe Chevy Chase is a nice guy at heart. There's something about him that just makes you hope there is a gentle soul underneath the dongish exterior. Green M&Ms taste better than blue ones. I'm damn good looking. That my dog understands when we have deep conversations with him. It was not OJ. Edit: for those of you demanding my reasons for this opinion, I gladly present to you the following. Wash. Tasted more like apple to me. Did you just brush your teeth? That karma works. I believe in karma so much that I design my policies based on the principle that the rich deserves their wealth and the poor deserves their misery. I can't say that I absolutely believe this, but in the last few years I've been pondering about God and the state of the universe. I was raised an atheist, so I have no belief in a God, but I kind of wonder about the universe as a whole. With all those trillions of planets and stars and nebulae and whatnot, how do we not know that the universe itself isn't alive? Maybe all those stars and planets respond to one another like neurons or molecules, making the massive universe into something like a brain, with everything operating on an unfathomable, inconceivable scale. We would be nothing in the grand scheme of things, merely little atoms atop a neuron, and no matter what we do to this planet, short of destroying it, there's very little we can do to interrupt the flow of the universe. This universal brain could be self-aware or not, and could be conceived as a sort of God, but it would ultimately have very little power. It wouldn't be able to affect the movement of the stars or time or anything really. It would simply just be. Maybe this will make sense to some people, and maybe I'm just crazy and these are my crazy thoughts. I believe that when we die, we return to the same state we were in before we were born. You don't remember either, do you? I don't really want to end up in my dad's balls again. Furniture are secretly out to destroy every last one of our toes. Soulmates. I believe we're all better off if we're not being dongs to one another. It's not as obvious as you'd think. Maybe the planet would have been devastated by overpopulation thousands of years ago if we weren't being dongs to one another. But I don't care. I still believe it. That I won't die alone. On a liberal atheist website, I'll probably get downvoted for saying this, but, God. Loch Ness Monster. I don't know why, but its existence just seems so sure to me. Me too. And Ogopogo in Lake Okanagan, and some big sea serpent-like creatures in the ocean. I don't think the lake monsters are plesiosaur-like animals, but I do think there exists some deep-dwelling animals that are undocumented for the lakes. The way I see it, giant squid used to be the thing of sailor stories and fantasy literature, but in the last century we are documenting finding them, and finding evidence of larger and larger ones. What is it now? The colossal squid? Either way, we've barely scratched the surface of understanding all the life that lives in water. The spirit world can be accessed through DMT. That fate is somewhat predetermined, but you can alter it. In essence, going with the flow is usually a good idea. That much like in K-Pax, the mind of a human being is enough to solve any physiological problems that can plague a person. Imagine tapping into our biological function such that we could induce our body to attack cancer, and do other things like spend our excess fat, whereas in a normal state it would cling to the energy as it does now. Hence fatties. Imagine solving any mental malady simply by placing yourself in a place where these kinds of issues just disappear by the volition of the mind. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for 3 videos a day.